Okay, so this question says, ask a user for a number and print a solid number of asterisk characters. You need to think about a nested structure to solve this question. For example, what big do you want your square? How big do you, this should be how big do you want your square? If we answer 5, it prints out 5 asterisks in a row, and then it does that 5 times. So it repeats 5 asterisks, it repeats that way, and then it repeats what it just did, it repeats that 5 times. So basically we have 2 loops. A repetition followed by a repetition. And what we call this, we call it a nested loop because one is inside of the other loop. One is nested, one loop is nested inside of the other loop. So we don't forget our commenting, right? We put our author, we put the date, and we put the description to print a square grid defined by user. So I'm going to ask user, size will be my variable. And because I'm going to be storing a number and I want to do mathematical with that number, I'm going to convert it to an integer. So I'm going to take the integer value of my input statement. How large do you want your grid? I add a space for formatting reasons. And notice it's automatically added the 2 brackets already. The first bracket was from the input, the second bracket was from the integer. Now what I can do is I can create a loop. And what I'm generating is I need to repeat something 5 times. I'm going to repeat the rows. For row in range 0 to size. So I'm going to start at 0 and go up to the number size. So if I inputted the number 5, it would repeat. It would do this 0 times, 1 times, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. 5 size would approach 5, but it doesn't actually execute on that iteration. It exits out of the loop, so it'll actually repeat it 5 times. So I'm just going to check this works. I'm going to print hello. Let's just try running that and see if it does what I think it should do. I think it should print hello 5 times if I say I want 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's perfect. But what I want is I want this not to say hello. I want it to be 5 asterisks. So if I run this now, boom. But what happens if I run it another time and this time I put in 10? Well, the problem is it's done 10 rows, but it's still putting out 5 instead. Now, as I'm coding this, I realize what I could do, and this is not what the problem is intended, but I could, how many times do I need to print that? I could take that value and I could multiply it, asterisk. So this first asterisk is a string, it's inside the quotation marks, but then mathematics, the multiplication operator is asterisk, but not inside of quotes. I could multiply it by size because we've seen that I can take a string and multiply it by a number and it repeats that string that number of times. So this would be one way of solving the problem. Okay, sometimes you see a little error, it was just rough out there. How large do you want your grid? I'm going to say 3. It printed 3, 3, 3. I'm going to try that again. 5 seems to be working. 10 seems to be working. Because of the way there's more space between lines than there is between characters, I could maybe try to make it a little better by putting in a space in there. That looks pretty good, actually. If I run this now, that's great. But it says, because of HTML, no, it says you need to think about a nested structure to solve this question. So this is inside of repetition. So rather than, so this is one approach and it works, but we're going to take a different approach. What I'm doing is I'm printing this asterisk 5 times. I could also use another loop, and this is called the nested loop when I put one loop inside of another. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to print out all of those columns. So my variable name, I'm going to call it call for column, could be any variable name, but I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say for column in range, and I need to do it 5 times as well, or size times. So I'm going to start at 0, go up to, but not include the word size. And this time I'm going to print out my asterisks. If I try this now, it's going to fail. I'll just do a 3 by 3. So problem is it's after each time it's done 3, 1, 2, 3, and it does 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. It's done everything I've told it to do. The problem is remember that there is a hidden character, a /n, a new line character that we don't see. Whenever this gets printed, it automatically gets added to the end. So what I can do is, in order to erase that, I'm going to say at the end, I'm going to print asterisks, but I'm going to say the end value should be hidden. It should not include that new line character. And so that will, let's try running this now. It's going to give us a slightly different problem. Do a 3 by 3 grid. So we got them all in one line, but the problem was that it never skipped down a new line whenever I got to this row. So what I want to do is, after I've printed my first row, 0 to, if it was 5 asterisks, I finish that. Before I execute onto my next row, I'm just going to say, hey, give me a print statement. So end is nothing. End is no new line character, so it's always on the same line. Once I've done all 5 of them, if I put in the number 5, in line 8, come down and print a new line. So now that I'm at the new line, let's try running that. How large do you want your grid? It's giving me the 4 by 4. And again, what I could do here is, in order to kind of space it out, make it a better square, I could make the end character a space. That looks a lot better. Or I could still make the end character empty, but I could add a space at the end of these asterisks. Same thing. Great.